Hi everybody, another video about miniature painting. Now, the thing you're always told when painting miniatures is to thin your paints. But how do you know when the paint is the right thickness? And the answer in the tutorials by these experienced miniature painters is always you just have to practice. You'll get it by instinct eventually. And I didn't find that very helpful as a beginner painter 2 weeks ago. So, but I came up with this way to decide when my paint was the right thickness. First things first. Um, you can err on the side of too thin. Too thin is better than too thick. If you paint a model with paint that's too thin, you end up with something like this, which is not a disaster. I mean, there are what you have here is a very patchy finish, but none of the detail has been obscured because the water has all dried up and gone away, leaving a bit of a fairly patchy layer of paint behind. But you can put another coat on this and it'll be just fine. So too thin is better than too thick. So give yourself that bit of let yourself off the hook there a bit, and just if your paint's a bit too thin, don't worry about it. Sometimes you want you want to get that perfect mixture between thick and thin, and this is how you do it. You look, the paint in the middle is pretty good. The paint on the left is too thick. The paint on the right is too thin. It's pretty obvious from looking at it. I've done some very big brush strokes, but sort of if you wanted to do it like scientifically, you look at the profile of the brush stroke. Right, so the one on the left is too thick, and you can see that it's formed ridges either side of the brush stroke, where the brush is pressed down and pushed the paint to the sides, and the paint is just stuck there in a ridge on either side, on the left and on the right of the brushstroke. Paint that's too thin, the reverse has happened. You have beading here, so the paint is actually sitting proud of the surface, and this is really, really obvious, especially when you're using a smaller brush. It's like the paint sort of sits there on the surface, forming a bead. That paint is too thin. This paint in the middle is what you want. It's not forming the bead the ridge either side, and neither is it forming the bead of water in the middle. And that is the right thickness for painting miniatures. Okay, I hope that helps.